Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning. Good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And we're going to have so much fun. We've already been having great fun. You know, I really should record all of this stuff in advance and have like an outtakes video, right? So we're going to have so much fun today talking with Peter Schroeder. So please join me in welcoming Peter to our program today. Welcome, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing great. Nice to finally be here.
I know. We had to reschedule. We had holidays. We had all sorts of things in there. So, but we got it. We got it going down.
Yeah.
So let me tell people a little bit about you, and then we will jump into this. Mm-hmm. So Peter Schroeder is a multi-award-winning DJ and entrepreneur who founded Telsio, a pre-unicorn unified communications company. With over 2 decades of experience, Peter has collaborated with companies like Facebook, Samsung, and Airbnb, transforming the way people work and communicate. Peter's remarkable career also includes earning over 20 platinum records, 40 gold records, and a triple nomination for the Danish DJ Awards. Despite facing challenges such as surviving a plane crash and becoming a father of twins, Peter continues to inspire others with his passion and unwavering drive. So again, Peter, welcome.
Thank you so much. That was quite a bit.
I love it. And those twins, you told me they're young, so you got a lot of time to be surviving them.
There's a lot going on. Yeah.
So much fun. Yeah. Well, I always like to ask my guests how they got to where they are today, because and you have had quite the career. I mean, you started at 12. Yeah. And so tell us a little bit more about how it is that you got to where you are today.
The short answer is ADD.
Right?
Mm-hmm. True. I mean, it really is. Mm-hmm. I just have, I can't not do anything. And, okay. I have to get involved in mm-hmm. everything I think is interesting. Which means that if there's a butterfly over here, well, then I need to go mm-hmm. chase it and see what that brings. And that's kind of my whole career is really mm-hmm. just that I've been, exposed to something, mm-hmm. Got some kind of opportunity, and then I've chased it to see where it mm-hmm. leads. I've never had this, huge career path mm-hmm. Goal in mind, and right. It's always been very small, little tangible goals mm-hmm. for me, like the next step. Mm-hmm. I started out when I was 12. I started out doing radio on DR, Denmark's radio. It's like the national, the BBC mm-hmm. Of Denmark, essentially.
Okay.
Where I was kind of like a kids show reporter, traveling around the country, okay. interviewing other kids.
Wow.
And that led me to be on national TV doing the same mm-hmm. thing for a while, which then led me to be on a talk show like Saturday night, prime time kind of thing. And then from there on, my voice changed, when I was like...
Yeah, because you started
14,
when
right?
you were a youngster.
Yeah, so all of a sudden I couldn't be a kids reporter anymore. Mm-hmm. It didn't really work. So, but at the same time, that was right when the internet started becoming a real thing. Mm-hmm. So I created this little website because I had some friends who were really good at drawing mm-hmm. and artists, so... You should put that online. That's internet is a thing now. Mm-hmm. You should put it on there so people can see it. So I created a website where they could do that, and then other people started submitting their things, and all of a sudden I had Scandinavia's biggest community for mm-hmm. artists that I built over a few mm-hmm. years and sold eventually. Mm-hmm. When I was like in my 17, 18 years old, so I was like, okay, now I'm over that. Now I want to mm-hmm. be a DJ. So then I became a DJ. But yeah, I've always had these kind of like two separate paths. Mm-hmm. I've always been a major nerd, computer mm-hmm. geek, since I was 6 years old, and I mm-hmm. got my first computer from my parents. Luckily, they bought me one that, that's probably the best investment in my life
Wow,
that
at
they've ever made.
6.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That was like, what was that, in 1990, right? So, and I was way more interested in just like messing with the programs and what's going on behind the scenes than I was with playing video games like my friends
So like
were.
20 years younger, you would have been the kid taking apart the radio to see how it worked.
I was. My grandfather was a telephone technician, funny enough, and he would bring home these old devices, old fax machines and stuff that I could take apart, and even a washing machine once. Spent the whole weekend taking that apart. I'm just very curious.
I love it. So, you were a very successful DJ. Do you still do any of that, or is that kind of in the past?
I wish. I would say I burned out in 2020. 2012. I played 382 gigs, I think it was, in 1 year.
Whoa.
Yeah, completely burned out on that.
Because that's like more than, there's some that you would have been multiple days.
Oh yeah. So most of them were actually 3 gigs per day, and then I would have like 1 or 2 days for traveling. But I was never home, and it was just not fun anymore. It became a chore, and at the same time, I didn't have time to make new music. So which you have to, especially in electronic music, you have to constantly release stuff. Otherwise, you'll become obsolete, and people, we will stop getting the gigs. And I am not the kind of person that can just have a laptop and do it in a hotel room or on a plane, like a lot of my friends can. And I really envy them. I have everything needs to be really neatly set up and perfectly plugged in. So I didn't make any music while I was touring and doing this thing. So I kind of just burned out on it, and I had to take a break. So I told my manager, hey, can you hold off with bookings for a couple of months, and then I'll make some new music and just like kind of recover. And at that time, I actually started Telsio. I started coding this thing that then became Telsio, and I didn't stop. I really just like got very excited about telecom. I've always been very fascinated about it, and really been interested in
like you said, it's genetic.
Exactly. There's just something about like a phone. I don't know. Since I was very, very young, I just remember. So I got really, really excited about being able to write some code and have a phone ring physically. So I kept doing that, and then eventually moved to the US. That was while I was still in Denmark. Moved over here and launched it, and didn't. I've probably played less than 10 gigs since then. Yeah. So it's very natural. It was not even that I, stopped. I still had to, I actually moved here to play because I was like, I got more and more gigs in the US. So I was like, I'll just move over here and see what that brings. And I was, as I was doing that, I was just like, it's just more interesting to to keep building this company that I've done for now 10 years.
I love it. So tell us more about Telsio.
And so it's. I mean, if you really boil it down, it's a phone service provider, a phone company, right? So we do business phone service, strictly business to business, and we built everything from ground up. This is the big difference from us and our competitors. Is we build everything, every single line of code in house, which means that we can also be first at innovating new things. We have control over everything. We don't have to wait for someone else to fix a bug if there's a bug, which also means that we haven't been down since 2017, 18 or something like that. That was for like 5 minutes. So things is, we're very much in control. And then we're just first with all the new cool features, and it's very intuitive and easy to use. So we built this platform now, and that because we bootstrapped it and built it from ground up, we've started with very few features, and we've just been adding as people have been asking for it, and that means that we've catered to very small customers in the beginning, and still do, and then we've just added more and more things over the years. So now that we have done that, we have customers like, for example, Facebook and Google that use our platform. So because we have kind of naturally grown into that position, the platform is very much like I'll say scalable for businesses of all sizes.
Right, yeah, because those are big. They're big companies.
Yeah, exactly. And the main thing is really that we have a different pricing model than all our competitors. We just charge you for the calls you make, like the old days, right? So instead of
I remember we had to make long distance calls after Friday at 6 p.m. right, because that was when the rates
and you
went
pay
down.
per minute, right? But the thing is, all the other carriers have been really, really good at teaching people or telling people that unlimited is a great thing, that you just pay one flat fee, but it's not really like, why would they do that if it's not a good for them? So you don't need unlimited, and no business does, no private person does.
Right.
So what we've done is we've just said, hey, we will just charge you for your features, or for the minutes and the text you send, make and receive, and then you get all the features from day one. And that way, it works for small customers because they can get the same features.
Right, and you can scale up and scale down.
Exactly. You just pay for the usage, right? So the more you call, the bigger your business is, the more you can also afford, right? So,
yeah. I love it. So you're obviously very successful. What are some of the challenges that you faced through the years?
I mean, everything is a challenge. So I've always very much been a stubborn fighter. I've never been that talented out of the box person that just
those that it comes easy to. It's like
yeah, it's annoying, right? But I'm incredibly stubborn, and I will work 16 hours a day to be the best. I get success, but that's really because I just put a lot of hours in. I'm not necessarily good, and that also means that I have a lot of struggles over the years because I need to learn everything, and I need to figure things out myself, and just like become best at it. But there's been a lot. I would say learning how to actually run a business has been a roller coaster over the years. I'm very creative and not necessarily a business person. My wife is a good business person though, and she's like a really smart person that will she basically runs the business on a daily basis. So I'm lucky that I have her on the team. But I would say. That whole learning how to manage people and understanding that they can't just read your thoughts out of your brain, that has been really really difficult for me. And then the whole ADD thing that I just found out a few years ago that I had, that apparently being told in school that he gets good grades but he's lazy, that doesn't really add up, because I'm not lazy at all, and why would I get good grades if I'm lazy? But I'm not interested. I'm not doing things I'm not interested in, right? So that apparently is called ADD, and I have a lot of it. I found out, and just understanding that and really putting a label on it, and being able to understand why it is I act in certain ways, and why it is that I haven't been able to do that tax calculation that should take me 20 minutes and now has taken me 6 months. Understanding those things has really been a big thing for me, because like I would maybe say it's similar to driving a car with the hand brake pull the whole life, and then all of a sudden just letting go, right? Like it's kind of like all of a sudden you're free. Right, you're free, and you can really understand why it is that, and you can act on it. You can figure out how to deal with it. So that's been a big thing for me.
Right, and we talk a lot with people on the program about entrepreneurs and obviously the challenges that they face, and one of the biggest ones is the fact that you can't do everything, and you got into business to do X. And having to do payroll and having to do all of those other things, like you said, managing people, that's not why you got into business. And then of course, the hard part is, and we laugh about this because it really is one of the hardest things for many of the people I talk with, is that word delegate.
Yeah.
And so how do you handle that? Because you mentioned, all of these various things. I'm kind of guessing that you like to be in charge, and that doesn't work always with delegating. So how do you do that?
Yes and no. I really hate managing. I really don't like managing. So I have a very small team. Like compared to our competitors and how many customers we have, our team is incredibly small.
That means you've got the right people.
Exactly. So I've spent a lot of time finding the right people, and I've gone through a lot of people, and I've just say, hey, I need to make sure that I have the right team that can read my mind, that can just go do the things that I want them to without me having to tell them to, and do it better than I could have told them to do it. And that's obviously really hard to find, and it takes a lot of time and effort, and then even more importantly, keeping them on is because those people are in high
right.
demand.
Yeah, somebody's going to hire them away from you.
Exactly. So you got to make sure that you then have them stay on. So that's definitely something that I've learned over the years that is probably the most important thing for me, because I really don't like telling anyone what to do. It feels strange to me. And at the same time, I get incredibly annoyed when I have to tell someone twice, and if things are not done the way I imagined it would be. So that's really my, I guess, secret to it now, is that I've figured out that, hey, I just need to make sure that I get the right team.
Right. Well, and because then you trust them, and you know that even if what they're doing might not be the way you would do it, it's still going to work.
It's probably even better. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And I'll be honest. I mean, that's one of the things that is my thing is, I'm the only one who can do it the right way, right? And so to actually trust that somebody's going to do it, and like I said, knowing that even if it's different, it's not wrong. And exactly. you mentioned it, when it might actually be better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, spot on. And that's really the key is just trying to let go, like trying to say, hey, this can also work, and what are the positives here in the way this is done?
Right.
And try and find those ones. That's important.
Right. Yeah, I had a guest on one time who has a very large company, thousands of employees, and he said he knew the business was a success when he could go on vacation and not be bothered.
Yeah.
And he said, really, he said, I have such a good team that I know whatever comes up, they will be able to deal with.
Right.
And he said, am I still available if it's a true emergency? Sure. He said, it is my company, but he said, I trust them. And because I trust them, they know that they are empowered to make those decisions. And if something, doesn't work the way it should, then you fix it.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And to me, that's also the whole reason why I want to have my own company. I'm unemployable. There's no no way I can work for different. The best day of my life was when my wife said, "You're probably not going to have to go back to work again." When we realized that we can actually live off of this, right?
Right.
That was very very exciting to me, because. It's true. Like being able to go on vacation and let go and not be bothered at all. We've been able to do that for at least the past 5 years now, and it's amazing. Not that we actually do go on vacation, because
I know
we don't,
because
we want to actually work, and that's the thing. Like we're actually in it because we like doing this, and can't stop doing it. But having that freedom to be able to just go away, or when our twin babies were born, they were born early, so taking
you had to take extra time.
Exactly, and just be able to say, hey, it doesn't even matter. I don't even have to tell anyone. I have to go somewhere and pick something up. I can do that and not having to tell anyone. And I know that things are not going to burn to the ground if I leave. That's freedom to me, and that's why I have my own company.
Right. Yeah, I've interviewed people before who have ADD and ADHD. And they've said the same thing. Working for someone is very challenging. And they said, so they actually keep that in mind when they're with their employees. And the one example that he gave me, I remember he said that some employees, you can tell them, okay, here's a project, get it done, and that works. And he said, but someone who has ADD, it won't get done. Right. And he said, so so we give them a deadline. You need this done. You need it done on Friday. And he said, and they did absolutely fabulous work. He said, usually they turn it in early, but if you were vague, it just did not work. And I think that's, one of the challenges that many bosses, employers, managers, whoever have, is figuring out how to work with all the different type of people that are working with them.
Right. Spot on. And one of the things that we do when we hire new people, one of the very first things is that we give them a personality test, a Myers-Briggs personality test, because that is so telling about who you're dealing with and how to deal with them. If you really read into it, it's incredibly accurate. and that will give you some pointers in terms of how are your personalities, your own and that specific person's personality, how do they interact, and how do you communicate with that person best to get things done.
Things, do they like text? Do they like email? Do they like, all of those things?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, it's super important, and it's something that I've definitely learned over the years. Something that my wife Diana, who's a co-founder and CEO of the COO of the company. She's really the CEO.
She's in charge. We know.
she's in charge.
She's the boss.
She's the boss. And it's something that she started doing and got really into it. And I was just amazed about how accurate it is and how productive it is, how useful it is. And it's such a small thing. It takes 10 minutes to take the test, and it's just some questions online, you just click through it. But it's a really powerful tool.
Right. It's obviously makes it a challenge when, say, you have 10 employees that you have to communicate with 10 different ways. But if you do it and do it well, it works out very well, because you're not wasting time, you're not wasting their time, all of those various things.
Yeah, and that's really the most important job of a business owner or a leader. And I want to say a leader because it's a big difference between a leader and a manager. A leader to me is someone who does exactly what you're saying, is able to convey the vision of the company and where you want to take it, and get people excited and on board, and bring, not telling them what to do, not telling them how to do it, but getting excited about the goal, so they bring their excitement into it. And once you can get someone excited about something, they're gonna, deliver good work. Right.
Are most of the employees remote? And because that obviously causes a challenge when, and it's interesting because, of course, that's the big debate now. Remote back in the office, remote back in the office. So, what are your thoughts on that?
So if you ask me right after COVID, I have said, everyone back to the office. And it's, and
we missed everybody, right?
Exactly, and I missed hanging out and karaoke in the break room and all that stuff. But during COVID, we started hiring remotely a lot more, and we also learned what not to do. We definitely did a lot of things wrong. Trying to figure out how to build a remote first environment, and I think we have nailed it now. Now, actually, after a couple of years here of trying to figure this out, we are only 3-4 people in our headquarters now, where we used to everyone pretty much be there. Now everyone is scattered. We have an office here in Los Angeles and then one in Copenhagen, where there's a couple of people. But besides that, then everyone's remote all over the US. We have people in Serbia and England and Ukraine and Philippines and Thailand, and they're doing amazing work. And I think, to me, really the key is also, again, finding the right people, because remote
because you just mentioned every time zone.
Exactly. So the thing is, in order to create a team, and it's especially important for a smaller company, if you're under 50 people, creating that bond that will get people excited about going to work and not just be a chore, right? That's hard to do when everyone's remote. So you need to find people who will partake in communicating with everyone else. And we use Slack a lot. So for us, it's about finding people who are not afraid to comment on other people's posts or post a meme themselves that's slightly offensive or something like that. Not be afraid of doing that, and laughing and at these things online with the others. Because that's not natural to most people. But if you can find at least a few that will ignite this and get the other ones on board and everyone else to do it, then that's where you start building an online culture, a remote culture that can actually work on a smaller company. Bigger company is a little different, but
Well, and I think the hardest thing was for the bigger companies to all of a sudden have to figure out how to work remote. I have talked to people and they said the hardest thing for them was to not be able to walk into somebody's office and point at their computer screen and say, tell me how you got that. Or, obviously all of the camaraderie that, you mentioned karaoke, standing by the coffee maker and talking about college football, or, I'm a big college football person. And all of those various things, and trying to do that online, it just takes more work. I mean, you can do that, but, one of the biggest, I had somebody that said, they build an extra 10 minutes in every meeting at the start where everyone is required to be there. So it's not, hey, we know, hey, we're really not going to start for 10 minutes. They got to be there for those 10 minutes. And that's where you do the, oh my gosh, look at the pictures of the twins,
Nice. Okay,
and those type of things.
I like that. That's a really cool idea. I think we're gonna try that.
Well, they said it works really well. And the key is that it's required. Otherwise, people will, it's really not going to start
to do something real quick. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Now they might not contribute during those 10 minutes, but same thing with if you're in person in a meeting, somebody might be the person who just sits and listens. But they're of course those are the people who know everything, right? Because they sat and listened. Right? They were that little fly on the wall that knows everything that's going on.
Yeah, it's true. No, that's a really good idea. I like that a lot. I think we'll try that.
You'll have to tell me how it works.
Yeah, exactly. Well, so we've been making sure that we have a lot of these town hall meetings, on Friday afternoons, where we try to put it like early afternoon so that we can get the ones.
Yeah, it is a challenge. Well. I mean, you got people everywhere.
Yeah, that's a little harder, right? But at least if we do it, then they can get it like their late evening and stuff. But where people are, so we have most of us are Danish, or like it's a Danish founded company, right? So we have a drinking culture in our company where people will be having beers and some getting slightly tipsy doing these meetings, and that's also loosens up everything, and
just because it's breakfast for some of the other people.
Exactly. And some people don't mind that, by the way. So.
That's true.
But it's that definitely helps creating this bond. Is that you can kind of mimic the happy hour that people would go after work and let them we can't you can't go do that after work yourself because you're remote, but let's us facilitate it then.
Right. Yeah. One of the funnest things I did during COVID was with my husband's company. And it was one of these things where normally they all went to a big conference, and couldn't go. And so what they did was an online wine tasting. And it was so much fun because they, and it was only certain people. I mean, clearly you were not having, I think there were like 20 maybe that participated in this, but they shipped us the wine in advance and the food that should be paired with it. Now that didn't quite work because it sat out in the Georgia sun. But we kind of got the idea. Okay, this cheese would be with this, and we didn't care after a while because we had all this wine, right?
Right.
And spouses obviously were to participate. They had the sommelier who talked about each one and all of these things. And I mean, it was just so much fun. And it would have been something we would have never done in person because the spouse probably wouldn't attend the conference. And there was also a lot of the chit chat going on back and forth because, you'd heard about, hey, I know that your wife does this. We want to hear a little bit more about that or things like that. And that's kind of sad that we only did that the one time.
Yeah, but that's why we're actually like we have it. I think it's every 3 weeks or something like that we have these meetings where I have an opportunity to kind of just go over what's going on in the company and just keeping everyone up to track. And then from there on, Yang, our operations manager, she just takes over and she starts the whole thing with a game that loosens up a little bit, and then people will sometimes hang on for 3, 4, 5 hours after.
Wow.
On Zoom, hang out, and that's super important because that's really where you create those bonds, and then people will start chatting on. Slack, personal little rooms, 2 or 3 people like they would in the break room, with the by the water.
The old water cooler. Yeah, exactly. I actually remember water coolers. I remember having to deal with the big. Okay, because I always made a mess. Right, they were way too heavy for me to move. But yeah, it is a challenge, and I was talking with somebody online yesterday, and they said, what are you doing to get back into things? And I said, I still have not attended any networking events since before COVID. I mean, the last thing I attended would have been February of 2020. I've been to one conference. I went to Podfest, of course, right?
Yeah.
And it was interesting because there were like 1,900 people, and so I went from nothing to 1,900 people, and it was like way too peoply. And shoulder to shoulder, yeah, there was just way too many people. But I've discovered that I can network very well online. So aside from missing seeing those people that I used to see at least once a month, it hasn't been a problem for me to not be attending those meetings. But it is, somebody else that in the group, they said, we go every day. They were like, oh, we have to see people.
Yeah, that is right. I only go to one conference now. I used to go to a bunch of them, but I only go to the AWS one in Las Vegas, and I try to bring my team there as well. So that's at least the development team. So we get to hang out a little bit.
Schmooze with those Amazon people.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, it's really the only one I go to now, and everything else. It just made me realize how much I don't need it. I can spend that time figuring things out in other ways. Yeah.
I tell people I don't have to put on shoes. Why do I want to put on shoes?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's even though it was a challenge in the beginning and really understanding how you run a remote business, we finally got it to the point where this is actually working. Yeah.
Right. So how else do you define effective leadership? Because clearly you're doing very well. What are some other things that you think really make a great leader?
I think allowing people to just take something and run with it and let them, do the projects and allow them to fail as well. It doesn't matter if you burned $10,000.
As long as nobody died, we're okay, right?
Exactly. It's more about giving them the excitement of being in charge of something and that they want to do. That's really important. So I try to do that as much as possible, and try to encourage people to bring it up, take it to me if there's something you want to do, then let's do it.
Right.
Right now we're actually moving all our on-prem data centers, because all our main ones are in the cloud, of course, but we have some backup stuff that we run that we used to have in our old headquarters, and we just moved out of that, and we actually downscaled our headquarter office because hey, we're not so many people.
Yeah, why pay for the space if it's just going to be empty?
And Los Angeles office space,
it's
not
even
cheap.
now.
Exactly, it's ridiculous. So we were like, well, so let's find an office without an actual server room. And let's move it out to Alex in Atlanta, who lives 5 minutes, who's running the servers, by the way, maintaining them, who lives 5 minutes from an actual co-location data center. And why don't we just move it there, and then he can go over there if there's something. I don't have to go in there, or Jonathan here doesn't have to go into our server room. And Alex will be right there, and he can take care of it. Those kind of things, and that was his suggestion, and he's excited about that because that's what he does for a living, and he can actually go physically to the servers and do things.
Right.
And just allowing him to go and find that space and negotiate the contract even. And
there's a lot of empty space here in Atlanta.
Yeah, so yeah, and he went to 5 different data centers and spent really good time and due diligence and making sure, and we shipped everything out, figuring out how do we ship a whole server room.
Yeah, I mean that's because it's obviously you can't lose anything, and
no, exactly,
as you said, you have to still be functioning. I mean that's the thing. It's not that you can unplug it.
Exactly.
Get on an airplane and then plug it back in. There's
right?
you can't have downtime.
I mean, there was a whole truck, right? So, yeah, that was definitely but that also made him really excited about it, and,
because it was his.
It's his, right? And he has ownership, and now he's making sure that those servers are running. He has that ownership now, and it's his baby. He's out there now, so it's so important to do stuff like that.
Right. Well, and when things don't work, what do you do?
Fix it.
No, it depends. But you learn from it, right? So we learn from those mistakes and figure out, okay, this is why it didn't work.
Yeah, and the thing is, we try a lot of things constantly. We figure out how do we want to do things, and if it doesn't work, then we try something else, and we reiterate constantly. That's obviously also because we're a tech company, and we have our own product. But it's really just that learning from what you did and trying to analyze why did that not work, and how can we look at it from the outside, because the thing is, if you look at other companies and you have often this, they should really just be doing that, and they should be doing it that way, that would be much better. Like it's there's certain things that are easier to see from the outside that you can't as a business owner or inside the company, simply because you're so focused on what you're doing and you have one thing in mind. So try to force yourself into seeing things from a different way, and I try to constantly play devil's advocate against my team. Try to just like poke holes in everything to try and see, make them, force them to you know, look at things and different angles.
Yeah. Well, and of course, the big thing is, you know, what you've been saying is communication. You know, you need to tell them, okay, you suggested this. Here's why we might not be able to do it that way. So let's come up with a different way. Or, you know, because I used to hate it when when I was in an office and they had the suggestion box, right? Oh, and what they did was they took I don't even think they read them, right? They just took the suggestions out and threw them in the trash can, but they never told you why they couldn't do something. And, you know, and because knowing that is just as valuable, because, you know, maybe it was a budget, maybe it was people, you know, all sorts of things. And so then you go, okay, well, if we need more people, why can't we get more people? You know, or, you know, knowing the why something can't be done is just as important as knowing why it can be done.
Yeah. And I was actually say almost even more important. So the thing is, and it's something that I definitely had to learn over the years, is, you know, turning down people and saying no, and that's not going to work. Is
right. You don't want to crush their little souls,
right? Exactly. That's a horrible thing, because like that can really be demotivating. But if you tell them the background to why you're, you know, then that makes a big difference. It's something that is incredibly hard to do. It's not a natural thing for me at all. Something I had to learn, but. Yeah, it's incredibly important, because that you know, letting people down constantly and you know, that's just a poison for your company. Yeah.
Right. Well, and you have to do it in a way that the next time they have an idea, they know they can still present it. You know, because if you get knocked down enough times in a bad way, then you're not going to try again. And I mean, you might have the next $1 million idea, but you're not going to present it because you're just expecting that the boss is going to go, nope, can't do that.
Exactly. And then here comes the next step on top of that. And this is probably the most hard of all of it to get your team to do. But if you can get your team to say no to you, and as a leader, if you can get them to poke hole in your ideas and get them to, you know, that's when you have goals. Right. And get them to you know, really just talk against you. That's hard to find people won't do that against their boss. But if you keep asking them to do it, you can force. And once you have a few people doing it, that's where, you know, other people will start.
Yeah, because then they see, okay, you didn't get fired.
Exactly. And I've really had people who are afraid of getting fired just for doing something. Like, you're not gonna get fired for telling me that my idea is wrong. Let's talk about why it's wrong, and then let's make a better idea. You know.
Right. Now, of course, there are ways to say it. I mean, they, you know,
of course,
because there are some ways that might get them fired. But yeah, when they're professional about it, that's the key. You know, and because being told you're an idiot, probably not the best way to go about it. But if they said, you know, hey, Peter, have you thought about this? Or, you know, then you have that dialogue.
But you know what? I would actually appreciate if someone told me if I'm an idiot. You know, there are reasons why people would say that, and I would want to fix that about myself. So I would rather that someone is candid with me and really tell me what they mean, so we can figure out how to solve it, and so that they don't have some kind of resentment, rather than just keeping it to themselves.
Right. Yeah, and it may just be the way they are. I mean, you know, there are people who are a little saltier than others, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, you know, it is all about, you know, what you said, knowing who they are, what works best with them, all of those various things.
Correct,
you know, and you know, works well with you because you have a small company, and then it just, you know, we talk about your phone system being scalable. If you get bigger, then you have managers who function the same way.
Yeah, and that really also comes from a top down. It's so important that like even something like taking vacation. I'm really bad at doing that because I'm just really passionate, and there's so many things I want to do. I can't I would rather actually be at work. But the problem is if you don't take a vacation as a leader, then your employees won't do it either. Like they
you're
feel
setting
bad about
that
it.
example.
Yeah. So you have to do that. You have to take off, and you have to take a couple of days off in the middle. Like 2 weeks ago, I went to Vegas for 2 days, Monday, Tuesday, or actually for the weekend. But I stayed out there because I have some old friends from my DJ career, and I was like catching up with them and hanging out, and I hadn't taken any time off since I don't even know, since the babies were born probably. But I was like, well, this is cozy. I'm going to stay out here for another couple of days, and that just rubs off on everyone.
Right.
Like they see that it's okay to relax and not
Right. Yeah. And I think so many leaders forget that, that they are setting that example. If they are, the first people in and the last people to leave, then you're thinking, I better be like that too. Or the opposite. I mean, I've worked for bosses who were perpetually late.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And right, and so then it was, well, if they can be late, I can be late.
Exactly. Yeah. No. Yeah. That's absolutely true. So there's of course there's a discipline thing to it, but I think the whole relaxed approach to how your company is run is a very Danish thing. Like we have that culture in Denmark. It's like something that like I think it's 5 weeks paid vacation mandatory in Denmark,
wow.
right? And 9 months maternity or paternity leave for both parents.
I love it.
Right. So we have this whole thing's very engraved in us. 37-hour work week and
right.
And people.
The person is the most important thing.
Yeah, it really is. And you want people that are excited to go to work and passionate about it, but you also want them not to burn out and these things. So that whole thing is definitely something that just naturally has come into our company because we have myself, but also we have other people from Denmark and that are just like bringing that into the culture.
Right. And like you said, modeling it for them so people know. Now, I'm guessing you didn't take 9 months off after the twins were born. But that's a little long. But if your employees knew they could, that's
exactly.
That's the important thing.
And that's the thing, right? That's really the thing. I'm very bad at doing this. Like I said, I work 16 hours a day, and I don't take vacations.
Just wait till those babies get older.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like I used to work 7 days a week. Now at least I'm off on the weekends and don't work at all. And I try to be home before bedtime every day, and then I'll work from home at night. So. I definitely try to do things, and I try to enforce my own philosophy. But it's very hard. It's very difficult when you're an entrepreneur and when you just want to, keep grinding.
Right. Well, and again, when you have people in all these time zones, you're thinking, okay, I need to respond to this email at 10 p.m. because that's 8 a.m. for my employee. Yeah. And that is, one of those tricky things. And it was funny when I moved to Atlanta. I had clients in that were in California, so 3-hour time difference, and I'd been here maybe a week, and they called and they said, are you not at do you not have your computer set up yet? And I said, well, yeah, why? Well, we've sent you an email, and I said, okay, you get that it's 7:30 p.m., right? But of course it was 4:30 for them. Yeah. And so we set boundaries. And I tell people, that is one of the things that, we have to do all the time. I mean, you do it with your kids, you do it, all sorts of things. And so I told them, I said, if you don't expect me to respond at 7:30 p.m., I won't expect you to respond at 4:30 a.m.
Right. Exactly.
And that worked pretty well.
Well, so we do something similar. So, like I said earlier, we use Slack a lot. We don't send emails internally in the company. Right. I got an email from an employee.
Oh, that's so old school.
And I was like, it was all weird to me. Like I got an email from one of the team members. Like, why am I getting an email? Like, is that person quitting? Or like, why? Like, it
were really they putting weird. It in official writing?
No, it's just like seeing it pop up. In the inbox. It's like, why is that person emailing me? There was just a new person that didn't know that we just Slack everything. But but Slack has a nice feature where you can set your work hours, and we do this by default for our team. Okay. And they can go in and change it if they want. But you set your work hours, and then outside of those work hours, your cell phone where you have the app or your computer, it won't come up with a notification when someone writes, right? Unless someone enforces that it gets pushed through.
Dang,
right?
we got an emergency type of.
Yeah, so when I write someone, it actually says it's this and this. The time is this for this person, and they have the notifications off right now. Do you want to enforce the notifications? And then there's a button
can
you can
it
do
go
that.
4 hours from now?
Exactly. So so you're as the sender forced to. Oh yeah, that can probably wait. So I'm not going to press that. You know, but if everything is burning and I need to get in touch, then I can also get in touch because they know that if it rings or if they get a message outside those hours, it's important.
Right. Yeah. And of course, the important thing is to actually know what's important and what's not important. You know, and because we've all had people that we've worked with where it's like, this could have waited.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's of course the thing. But I think we at least have it's also common sense, right? There's a lot of that, and that's really hard. Like common sense, what is that really? And that's really hard to find. I feel like that people who are able to think for themselves and actually put some thought in instead of just trying to follow whatever is being told that they need to do, right? Like, not just what do you think you should do? And if you can get people that or get people to do that, because everyone can, if people can apply their own common sense to everything they do, then they also won't email you at certain times and do these kind of things. But put some thought in it.
Back to personalities. I mean, there are people who need the boundaries. I worked in an agency. And of course, agency work, you never know what you do in 10 minutes from now, because your clients have fires and all of these various things, which to me, I love, right? I like not knowing what's coming up. But, one of the women there, no, she needed to know what was happening at 1:38. And she lasted for maybe 6 months before I'm pretty sure it gave her an ulcer. And then she went to work for a company that was very rigid. And, you will start at this time. You will take your break at this time. I mean, it would have driven me nuts, right? But for her, that was exactly what she needed to be the most productive.
And you know what? I can definitely see the bliss in that. I can see, people who go to a factory and sit, doing this, every day.
And part of it is because they don't want to think.
That's the thing, right? And when it's lunch, they go eat their lunch, and when they're off work, they're off work.
Right.
They are off, and they don't have to think about it. They don't have to think about that machine doing anything. They're completely off. So there is definitely some to that, and I can definitely understand why some people why it works. It wouldn't work for me at all. I'm not that personality, but I definitely understand that some people appreciate that.
Well, and obviously there are times when, when the schedule is the schedule, like you said, you have these meetings. Okay. You're not going to just willy-nilly change, I mean, but yeah, it's, it is one of those things that it's just kind of, you kind of have to figure it out as you go.
Exactly. Yeah. And for me, I'm normally very much on time. My wife is not. She's very much the opposite of that. And actually today I was a couple of minutes late, and that stresses me out crazy. We had some technical problems that we talked a lot about. We're building a new studio, so this whole thing is really stressful to me because I'm very much on time with everything. Because when I do have deadlines, or like you said earlier, that works really well with ADD. If you have deadlines, then I definitely. I'm not going to be a second over, and being late to some kind of meeting or appointment is just painful to me. And it's not really that I even that it matters so much. That other people are late to something. It doesn't really bother me that much. But
you're not going to be sitting there looking at your watch going tick, tick.
No, I'm not. I mean, it's just for me myself. I just have to. It's an interesting thing.
Right. So when things get overwhelming, what do you do?
I'm not sure I understand.
Oh,
my watch just decided to talk to us. I love technology, right? I was moving my arm.
I love that.
And my poor little watch just didn't understand what I wanted it to do.
Well, I'm not sure. No, so what do I do? Well, so my mother always used to say, go to bed and it'll be better tomorrow. And that's actually what I live by. Is really when things are overwhelming or when things are just have a bad day and everything's just you have the roller coaster which is several times a day up and down when you have a business. That's just what it is.
Right.
when you have one of the really big down ones, go to bed and it'll be better tomorrow. And it is. It is always better tomorrow. You're fresh. You're probably just already tired, but you just need to relax your mind and then try and then something will solve itself. You know, there will be you know, you'll have someone to talk to, or you'll at least be fresh and you know, have a clear mind and try to deal with it. That's really my main thing. Yeah.
So, you know, you mentioned that you work with your wife. And, you know, so is it a challenge when there are issues? I mean, like, you know, we talked about boundaries. Do you not talk about work at home? I mean, how do you deal with some of that?
I'm terribly bad at not talking at work at home, but she's taught me to do that, and she's really good at setting those boundaries and have been really good at enforcing them. I mean, we've been doing this for 10 years now, and yeah, it's a challenge, but we are also good at dividing our tasks. So try not to step on each other's domains, and try to really just divide. Well, you do that, I do this, and try to respect each other's opinions about those things and not interfere. That's really the key for us, because it is difficult. Of course, it is. And then she doesn't work in the office; she works from home. So it's not like we're sitting on top of each other all day.
Yeah.
So that's really the key for us. But yeah, it is difficult, and I understand why when we started out the company, why people wouldn't invest in a couple like that. You know, that was one of the things we heard a lot, and I totally get that.
Right? Yeah. Because you know, heaven forbid something goes wrong.
Yeah, and it probably does, right? To be realistic, most relationships, especially when you're not even married yet, like we weren't when we started the company, like who would invest in that? So I totally get that, and that meant that we had to really take the long road, right? And we had to bootstrap things and figure things out. But that's also been a blessing for us, because now we own the company.
Right. It's you were not beholden to somebody else.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's a good thing, but yeah, it's definitely difficult, and it still is. It's something that we we try to solve, and we always solve things, and we always figure it out. But it is difficult to work with your spouse, for sure.
Right. Yeah, it's funny. I had a guest on one time who his two sons worked for him, and you know, and so I kind of asked the same thing, and he said, well, you know, we've only had one uncomfortable Thanksgiving. and he said, you know, and his wife, their mom, basically said, shut up. You know, we're done. You're not talking about this anymore. But yeah, they said it really was one of those where they had to make that big effort that, you know, I'm dad all the time, but here I'm the boss. And, you know, and because part of it too was that respect, you know, it's, respect, you know, you're not going to take advantage of the fact that that's dad or your spouse or whoever.
Yeah. Having that respect is super important. Respecting each other's opinions on certain things is really, really, really important. And try not to interfere. Yeah. Right.
Okay. So I highlighted something in your bio that then I totally forgot to ask about. What the heck is a pre-unicorn company?
You got to ask our PR agent about that. Well, so we're obviously on the way to become a big company, and we're doing great. And you know, a unicorn company is a business that's worth $1 billion, and we're on that road. We're actually now for the first time raising real funding. We've been bootstrapping for 10 years and grown a really good business out of this. Like I said earlier,
well, like you said, your clients are Facebook and Google, so you're clearly doing something well.
Right. We have a great product, and no, we've never spent $1 on advertising. Everything is just word of mouth and good SEO. And that, you know, just goes to show that, you know, our customers stay on and they tell their friends about it. Right. That's how we've grown. And you know, we're now at the point where, okay, we want to fire, put some more gas on that fire and really make it blow up. So now we're actually raising money, and we are, you know, getting to that valuation soon. So I think that's what caused why they
well, so when you started, was that your goal? I mean, like we talk about, you know, the BHAGs, the big, hairy, audacious goals, right? So when you started your company, did you say we're going to be worth $1 billion?
No. Everything is really just very open-ended for me. Like it's my wife that has to actually set, you know, goals, because you have to, when you're raising money, you have to have a goal.
Yeah, but how do you know you got there if you didn't have the goal, right?
Yeah. And I'm terribly bad at that because I just want to build things and I just want to make the next thing. And luckily, our product and our industry is very much, open-ended. There's always something new you can build in communications, right? So it's still interesting for me, and it keeps being interesting for me.
Right.
And that's really for me the goal is as long as I can just build and do the things that I find interesting. Again, my ADD brain, right? Like if I can do those things that I find interesting, then I'm happy. I don't need $1 billion, but that would be nice to have, of course.
Right.
But it's really more just about for me personally. Am I happy what I'm doing? And if I am, then I'm good.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, oh my gosh, we've only got about 5 minutes left. And we didn't even talk about AI and all of that. And I would love to get your perspective on that. It's been something, obviously that we've talked about several times. I love it. I think it's cool. I don't think it's going to replace the world. We're not talking Terminator, but I understand. And, we were chatting before the program that you're in LA, I'm in Atlanta, which of course, both of those are very affected by the two big strikes that are going on right now with the writers and the actors who are very obviously and justifiably concerned about AI and things like that. So, Peter, that just means we have to have you on again so that we can talk about all of that.
I would love to.
Yeah, I think it would be so much fun to get your perspective on that, especially because you are in that every day.
We're doing a lot of things with AI. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And especially with like phone systems,
exactly.
and all
we're
of
building
those
a whole
things.
product around it at the moment. Yeah. So
yep. Ooh, cool. We will definitely have you on again to talk about that. But in the meantime, tell us a little bit more about how people find you and how they connect with you.
So Telsio, if you want to try out the business or the service, if you have a business and you want to try it out, go to Telsio, TELZIO.com. And sign up for a free trial. That's really the best I can say because once people sign up for a trial, they usually actually get hooked.
Right, they stay.
It's very easy. Exactly. It's very easy to work with, and it's actually fun to set up and play around with. So, at least go try it out because it is fun, and at the very least you will get a little entertainment for a moment, right? So try it out, and then if you want to get in touch with me personally, peterschroeder.com. There's my social media, there's my email address, everything's on there. So reach out. I'm always happy to talk.
Perfect. I love it. I love it. Well, this really has been so much fun. And like I said, I can't wait to have you on again. And the funny thing is, if we were to talk tomorrow, things would be different. And, and it'll be several months, obviously, probably before we chat again. So it really will be interesting to see what has happened. And I am one of those, nerd people that now I am kind of a middle adopter. Kind of wait, let people do a little bit with it before I leap into it. But I think it's great. I mean, especially for people like me, who in essence is a business of one. So how much can I have this do for me as opposed to hiring someone to do it? But I think it's my take is it always still needs the people,
It still does. Yeah. And people will not be replaced; they will be, moved. To
right, they'll
things.
Shift.
Yeah, and it's like the saddle maker that will always have saddles to make. Then came the car, and the ones that started making upholstery, they had jobs, and the ones that kept making saddles, they went out of business, right? So it's really about just adapting to everything. Everything's always changing, right? So.
Right. I love it. I love it. Well, this really has been so much fun, and I can't wait to chat again. But until then, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
Well, I mean, I always just go by the thing, just try stuff out and, just jump into everything. Be a little naive. That's really what I want to tell the world. Just be a little naive because, that's how I built my business. It's logically you shouldn't go out and start a phone company and compete with AT&T, T-Mobile, and those kinds of things. And don't do it on a bootstrap budget. Like that's very not logical, but that naivety is why I have a really successful business today. I live by Pippi Longstocking's quote. She says something in the lines of, "I've never done that before, so I'm sure I'll be able to do that." So, having that approach to life is key to me.
I love it. Well, this has been so much fun. I am Deb Creer. I've been talking with Peter Schroeder of Telsio. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.